fairly radical material. Although it has to be said that Luther wasn't itching to get married at this point. He kind of has to be dragged into it a little bit later on. But he's starting to look approvingly on it for other people. And one of the things that Luther spends a lot of his time doing after this break from Rome is he spends a lot of time helping people, sometimes priests and nuns and monks and friars, find suitable mates, find suitable spouses. He spends a lot of time kind of matchmaking for people. And in fact, that's actually how he ends up meeting his wife. She's a nun, and he's trying to set her up, and he arranges this marriage for her, and it looks like a pretty good marriage with someone who's fairly prominent in the city. And she meets him and says, "I have no interest in marrying him at all. This is never going to work. It was a bad idea." And she says, "Why don't I just marry you instead?" And Luther kind of laughs it off. It's a terrible idea. Not interested. It's not for me. I've set it up for other people, but I don't want to be married. And Luther actually, it's interesting. He's talking to his father about this, writing to his father about it. And, sort of, you won't believe the crazy things someone just said to me. And his father says, it's not a bad idea. You're kind of a mess. Your household's a little bit of a mess. You never kind of keep your money together. You're always running out of food. You really need to think about that. And that's actually what happens. Luther says, he takes his father's advice seriously. As you know, I've said this before, he and his father had a back and forth relationship, but at this point they're sort of reconciled, and he reads his father's advice, which is basically, you go off to find a wife, it do you some good, and so they're married, and it grows into a very loving marriage, on which Luther makes many comments throughout their married life. But I think in addition to his embrace of marriage and his kind of promotion of marriage, because of the Word of God, because of his reading of Genesis 2, he embraces marriage, but he also, and this I think is important, because of his understanding of Scripture and of human nature, while he embraces marriage, he has a sort of realistic view of marriage. And this is where some of the funniest quotes that Luther makes come from. I'll give you just a few of them. Luther's writing after he's first married, and he says, "Man has strange thoughts the first year of marriage." And this is one of the most famous parts of the quote. He said, "In bed, when he wakes up, he sees a pair of pigtails lying beside him, which he hadn't seen there before." And then he goes on and says, "On the other hand, wives bring to their husbands, no matter how busy they may be, a multitude of trivial matters." And he goes on to describe how he's sitting there, he's working hard, he's doing all this important stuff, and his wife asks him what he considers to be just the dumbest questions in the world over and over again. So in other words, what Luther does, and it's kind of, in a sense, it's a beautiful thing about his writings. He promotes marriage. He talks about the beauty of married love. He himself has a very happy marriage with many children. But he's also, because he's being faithful to the Scriptures, he's also sort of has a kind of realism about it. He says, "Oh, how fine a thing it is when a man and wife share their bed and board. If at times they murmur and snap, there may be no harm in it. In a marriage, things are not always straightforward." And so there's a realism to Luther's view of marriage. It's a good thing. It's a gift of God. It's for our friendship, and it's for children. But on the other hand, it's not always straightforward. And it can become complicated, and you're living with someone else, and so you have to make all kinds of adjustments. When he's talking about his pastoral ministry, and he talks about marriage, he says, "How much trouble do we have with marriage matters alone?" In other words, even if all I did during the week was just dealt with people's marriages, that would keep me pretty busy. What hard work it is to get people together, and how much a greater care it is afterwards to keep them together. So you see Luther's still doing this work of kind of trying to matchmake various people, and he said that's hard enough, and then when they get married, there's still lots of work to be done. It's an ongoing exercise in pastoral care and an ongoing exercise for them in learning and growing. We know a little bit about the effect that Luther's marriage had on his life, in addition to the children, in addition to the things he says. It's evident and obvious that Catherine von Bora rescued his finances, essentially, took over his household expenses and just made it all kind of work. Luther had a lot of things he was printing and writing all the time, so he was a university professor. He had a decent enough income, but just never could kind of keep it all squared away. And she took control. She fed him a little bit better. She grew this garden. He was feeling better. He was doing better. All in all, it was a very, very good thing for him. She also had some interesting things. She always complained about Lucas Cranach's, who made these portraits of them, and she always complained that he never makes me look good in his pictures. She was always complaining about how she looked in pictures. They make you look good, but they never make me look good. And Luther just kind of brushed that aside. It also related